Hey guys, welcome back. This is Library of Orthanc, LOTR TCG, with another deck tech video for you today. I'm pretty excited about this one. Always myself like to follow top decks and world championships and whatnot, and as some of you may know, the Lord of the Rings Players Council did just host the online world championships on GEMP. So this is the first world championships we've had that's really been a full worlds since the game died. So very exciting to share this deck list with you. This is the World Champion deck list by basmelis. And I think I shared with some of you guys in previous videos that I do like to print out the errata and the virtual cards and, play it on paper. So that's what I've got today for you, is just his exact deck on paper. So this deck is, on the Free People's side, it's kind of a Bilbo tail-based deck. And then on the Shadow side, it's Goblin Moria Swarm. So we'll try to do a little more in-depth deck tech on this for you guys, just to kind of explain the strategy a little bit, because that's the one thing I think that I've analyzed a lot of deck lists in my time, and usually I can look things over and then try to piece together in my mind what the strategy is, and I'll try to share that with you guys as far as what I learned as I was reviewing this deck list and putting it together. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start with the Free People's side here. So I love the format here that the PC has created. It really has taken away the degeneracies of what you see if you're just playing straight Fellowship. And people love to play straight Fellowship, but I myself think there's many flaws to it, with Uruk-hai being overpowered, Choke being overpowered, certain strategies just not balanced. And I think the PC has done a great job of doing some balancing. So for this deck, we do start Frodo, Old Bilbo's Heir, as our ring bearer. And again, I mentioned it's a Bilbo based deck, so that healing the Hobbit ally is going to come very key. And of course Isildur's Bane, since we're playing Fellowship. So that is our ring bearer. In terms of starting companions, again, the thing that's unique about Fellowship is there's Prancing Pony, which can get Aragorn. There's Green Dragon Inn, which can get Sam. And so your starting Fellowship can be versatile depending on what your opponent starts. In this particular deck, we play Bilbo, but we play 3 copies. So we play the site that fetches Bilbo, but we don't necessarily need to have that. So if you're going second, let's say, what you're going to be doing is, if your opponent starts the Prancing Pony, well, you're gonna get your Aragorn off the Prancing Pony, and then you can start like a Arwen Legolas type situation. You could start Sam. I don't know that would be what you're doing here. Probably starting these two if you get the Prancing Pony from your opponent. If your opponent does not give you the Prancing Pony, this guy here, this is also an Aragorn deck for sure. And looking at it, so you're only playing 1 copy of this boy. So what you're gonna do is, this is gonna be your starting card. If you have no other way of getting Aragorn, meaning your opponent didn't start the Prancing Pony, this is gonna be your starting Fellowship right here. So very lean and nice choke component to it, but as you can see here, the errata on the Heir to the White City it's just remove 1 instead of remove 2, but it's still a fantastic card. So there's your typical starting Fellowship, is just Frodo, Aragorn. But you do have kind of the full suite of companions. What I would say is, in looking at this deck list, your Aragorn is absolutely indispensable. Never do anything that would put Aragorn in harm's way, such as go up to 6 companions, or anything that would cause Aragorn to die. So your additional companions are all more splash based. You don't really play much support for them, and that's Arwen. Again, Nazgul's strong in this meta, so she's just a good splash for that. Legolas, always a good splash for the archery. Boromir for hobbits. Merry to pump another companion. Pippin to remove a wound or a burden, and then die as a speed bump. And then Sam to remove burdens. So again, I think your hobbits in particular, you're throwing down, getting their ability and sacrificing them. it's kind of like the bad beef type strategy. So that's your other additional companions. Like I said, no support really for any of these 6. They're all just splash companions, and we're going to be focusing on Aragorn and Bilbo. So from there, I've obviously been talking about Bilbo a lot. Let me show you our ally package. So our ally package is Bilbo Baggins, Well-Spoken Gentle Hobbit. So for you guys who aren't familiar with this, Bilbo is excellent at controlling shadow conditions in your opponent's support area. But his method for getting rid of them is a little unique in that you do have to play a tail and then exert Bilbo and discard that tail. And then what that will do is discard a shadow condition from your opponent's support area. So you'll see this deck is just chock full of tails. And they all support your strategy is the unique thing about that. So you're going to get one of these Bilbos down. You do play 3. So like I said, I don't think this, again, in looking at this deck, you're not going to be too concerned about going first because you've got your 3 Bilbos. I've seen some decks will just play 1 Bilbo and then, one of this Hobbiton party field. But in that case, you need to bid high to go first. You need to start Sam. And this isn't going to work for this because we're going to be starting Aragorn Heir to the White City. So very wise to play the multiple copies of this. And so that will really keep things under control. What that's good for, of course, if you're playing Moria, it gets rid of their armories. If you're playing against Sauron, it gets rid of their blanking on the name, the archery, the archery effects. Under the Watching Eye, that's the one I was trying to think of. And then if you're playing against Nazgul, obviously it keeps their black breast, blade tips, all that stuff under control. Least important probably against Uruk-hai because it'll get rid of their Saruman's power, but those are still definitely good to get rid of. So any shadow, this is going to be a very valuable ability to keep their shadow under check. And you've got 2 additional allies in Bounder and Thrarin. And again, reminder on how this works is you have Frodo, so at the start of each turn you heal a Hobbit ally. So oftentimes that's going to be Bilbo, but it's nice to have a reusable Bounder as well. And then Thrarin is just as, again, extra splash in there just to soak up a skirmish when you need him to. So that's the ally package. Then let me leave a Bilbo out here. So that's, like I said, there's your key core of the deck is the Bilbo and the Aragorn. So let me show you then our support package, which is very extensive for Aragorn first off. So Aragorn has his Ranger's Sword in 2 full copies. Again, I think you guys know the importance of that. And then we do also have 2 Flaming Brands. Again, this is the errata version. You can bear it in addition to another hand weapon, though still. And then again, you can, burn the brand to get a temporary pump against a Nazgul. So that's key for that Nazgul meta. And then, and of course, the errata 2 makes it actually cost a Twilight, but still well worth it. So you're probably trying to fit Aragorn with a sword and a brand. And then you do have the bow. Again, not necessarily a full archery deck, but just getting Aragorn to be an archer is nice. And then armor to protect him from the damage +1. And then we do have triple Athelas. So this is going to just help heal companions as needed, in particular Aragorn. But also, if he did get infected by the Black Breath Blade Tip situation, you can remove those too, so that's key too. Bilbo can kill them when they're in the support area. If they actually get attached to Aragorn somehow, though, Athelas is going to get rid of that. So again, really working hard to keep our Aragorn alive because he's so critical, as you see all these support cards we're playing for him. And he's our only Gondor man other than there's that one Boromir that you saw. So then in looking at kind of your Frodo support cards, you do have Sting, Frying Pan, and Mithril-coat. Again, Sting is the errata version. Frying Pan is also errata to make it cost 1, so you can't just pass it around to your hobbits for no cost, but still may be a good strategy to pass around depending on who you're playing, if it's Moria, something like that. So, and then this obviously is strong against Sauron, reducing the archery total. So there's your kind of standard Hobbit support cards. You do in this deck, unfortunately, have to pay Twilight for these because you don't have the Reluctant Adventurer, but it's still well worth, the small cost of these, especially with Aragorn's ability where, he kind of gives you one small free thing per turn. So there is that. Then moving on into our tail package. And so this is the deck I've seen, I'd say, with the most extensive tail package I've ever seen. There are 16 full tails in here. So again, guys, for anyone who doesn't know what a tail is, it's just a unloaded keyword in the game text that can appear on typically possessions, conditions, and it just says tail in bold. And so this, again, is referenced primarily on Bilbo discarding a tail. So, and here, let's go ahead and move these guys to the side for now. So our first very key tail is the Red Book of Westmarch. So this we play triple of again. So we're looking to get one Bilbo, one Red Book down. And this is so critical because of this text. You actually do want to keep one of these in play. You don't want to discard the first one. Each time you play a tail, you may spot Bilbo to draw a card. So when you can just go tail, draw, tail, draw, tail, draw. I mean, again, there's the rule of 4, but you shouldn't really run into that too often. It just becomes a really nice engine with 16 tails in the deck. So you really want to get one of these down, and that's why you have extra 3 copies of it, is just to make sure you get one down. If you got an extra one in your hand, then feel free to burn the first one and replace it. But don't do, that's going to be your key thing to get down. Then this one, again, is more just fuel for Bilbo, not as critical. It does say Bilbo can't take wounds, but I'd say that's primarily protection for if your opponent is splashing a tower assassin. Again, we don't want Bilbo to die in this deck because he's so critical. So Bilbo may not take wounds is a nice ability to protect from those tower assassins. And so remember, guys, with allies, if they take wounds and die, they go to the dead pile. You can't play them again. And so this prevents that from happening. If they're just discarded, like something says discard an ally, well, then you can play another copy of Bilbo because being discarded does not prevent you from just playing another copy. So always remember that. And then I don't think you'd really use this ability much, exert Bilbo to remove one, but if you had absolutely nothing else to do, you could go ahead and do that because you get a free heal off of Frodo. And again, this is just a 0 cost condition. So fantastic fuel for this Red Book so that you can just play this, draw a card, play it, draw a card, and it costs 0. It's not even adding Twilight. So we have 3 of those as well. Then Stone Trolls is primarily in here for Uruk-hai, just a fantastic card to have down for that. Just absolutely want to get one on Aragorn because limit 1 per character. Each time bearer skirmishes a troll or Uruk-hai, bearer is strength +3. So fantastic. Aragorn's just going to be beating Uruk-hai left and right and just killing him with this level of power from the Stone Trolls. And, get a second one. You can even throw it on Frodo and make it so that he can, soak up some of the wounds from an Uruk-hai. So just a very nice card for that specific matchup. So we have 2 of those. O Elbereth Githanel. I'm pronouncing that wrong, but sorry, guys. Close enough. The Errata version again. Strength +4 against a Nazgul. But again, it's just a pump on Frodo for 1. And it's a tail, so again, just nice to have one of those in there. Same thing with there and back again. Nice little pump, only costs 1. And again, all of these are tails. I haven't been pointing this out, but this whole last stack of 16 cards, all of them are tails. And this one is an interesting one, I think, that is weird to me that this is a tail, but it is. The other ones you kind of understand why they are. The Gondor Bowmen, though, is a tail. I guess it's because it's the arrows of the last alliance. So they're saying that these are the bowmen that showed up to fight Sauron. So I guess that explains the tail flavor to it. But either way, it is a tail, and you can exert Aragorn to discard, Aragorn or Boromir, I guess, to discard this condition and discard this condition to make the Fellowship archery total +2. Again, you can kind of stack those up and then, blow up a bunch of minions if you need to. But also, again, it's just a 0-cost tail. So just fantastic to throw down, put them in your support area, and just chuck them to get rid of a shadow condition in the support area. So full play set of the Gondor Bowmen. And then, of course, 1 copy of No Stranger to the Shadows. Again, this is unique now, and bearer must be a ranger. Each site's shadow number is -1, so you put that on Aragorn as well. Could go on Arwen too, since she's a ranger. Remember that. Just like the Flaming Brand, that can go on any ranger. And then finally, the Saga of Elendil. Same thing, just the vitality pump, and it is a tail. Again, I understand why that's a tail too, because it's the story of Elendil. But either way, super cool deck. I love this tail package. Just kind of run through that again just to visually show you guys that. Just a fantastic synergy here with all of these cards. They all work well with what we're trying to do, and they all are tails. So it's really, like I said, just a great deck that really synergizes, Bilbo plus Aragorn, where you've got your Bilbo package with the red books, the consorting with wizards, and the trolls. And then you got your Aragorn package with, all of these bowmen, Stranger Saga, and then, of course, all of the mini possessions that we might want to put on an Aragorn, and the Athelas to keep us healed. So really, these are your 3 core companions, is your Frodo and your other 2 guys here. And then, as you can tell, as I showed you earlier, everyone else is really quite disposable. All of these are great companions, but in this deck, we don't really have any support for them. So they're just in there to, I'd say, keep yourself at 5 companions if necessary. Like if you're facing Uruk-hai, you generally don't want to go up to 5 to expose yourself to savagery. Against anyone, you generally don't want to go up to 6 to expose yourself to Enkea. But play it by ear based on who you're playing, how big you need to go in your fellowship, with the key criteria I mentioned of just keeping that Aragorn safe and alive. So yeah, let's move on to the shadow side. So the shadow side, we do have fairly standard Moria Swarm here, but a couple unique techs that I'm going to point out. So I won't go too in-depth on what Moria Swarm is and how it works. I think most of you guys know that at this point, but I will try to point out in particular the special decisions that were made in this deck. So we do have the full 4 runners. That's just absolutely essential. You've got 3 scavengers. I usually like to run 4, but 3 does the job. And then 4 Moria scouts. Again, with as heavily as this meta has Legolas and Arwen in it, this is basically just always going to be a free minion. And then we do play 3 sneaks. Again, I think just for a little more cheap minion swarm. This is kind of more of a flex one, not as critical as those first ones. Those first ones, you're always 100% of the time going to see runners and scavengers, and usually even scouts. And then this is kind of, they're going down in quality as we go. 1 warrior is really nice. That's just to kill the Thrarin. So you play 1 copy of that. And then guard commander. I have never been a huge fan of this, but when I saw it in action in some of the videos, he really remove 3 sounds like a lot, but sometimes Moria can just have extra Twilight they're not using, and this can make the math really difficult for your opponent because that's not limited to +2. You can do that twice and throw down a +4 if you're sitting on 6 Twilight. So I think I would always play 1 of this now after seeing this in action. Pretty cool. That makes the overwhelm math on the small scrubs actually more difficult for your opponent. And then we do have 2 cave trolls. And of course, 1 Balrog, the Flame of Udun, the Moria version. 1 Enkea. Again, never hurts to play 1 Enkea in Fellowship. And then here's the new tech that I saw in this deck that I was pretty impressed with. So Moria never has a good site 9. You can play the one that says draw a card for each burden, but again, that only goes so far. What this one plays is Tol Brandir, play up to 3 trackers from your discard pile. So that ability will make it so that you actually can swarm at site 9, and you can just get these 3 guys into your discard pile and fish them out at site 9 if you need to go for a site 9 swarm. Obviously, you're probably going for a swarm before that, but if worse comes to worse and you need to go for it at 9, that ability and these 3 cards is just going to be a huge tech. So I hadn't seen that used in Moria's Swarm, so I really love the utilization of that tech in this deck. And then you do have your 4 full scimitars, very standard. 4 full armories, again, very standard. And 2 swarms to restack the minions, especially the ones that are armed with your scimitars that win skirmishes. Stack them on the swarms to replay them. And again, I think you guys know Armory obviously prevents wounds, and Scimitar lets you draw a card when you play it. Relics, this one was subject to errata, but we are playing 2 copies. The errata just is to make it unique, so I can't have these both down at the same time, but I'm wanting to always have one down, so that's why we've got the 2 copies here. So I still think that's a good decision. They are coming. Again, this is just a discard 3 to play an orc from your discard pile. Very essential for this deck, and really helps cycle too. I did not mention this is a 40-card Shadow and a 40-card Fellowship, so it's on the larger side, but Moria cycles so well with all the card draw from Scimitars and the discarding from They Are Coming. And the Free Peoples I haven't tested, but I would anticipate would cycle very well with the Red Book of Westmarch tail drawing abilities. And then this was another unique call. This one I'm not as sure about, but it was unique to see in the deck. 3 copies of Foul Things. So this one says, play a Moria minion from your discard pile, but it costs 2. So there is a Host of Thousands is the other card you could consider in this slot, which costs 0. And the only difference is it's limiting you to playing orcs, whereas this one is any Moria minion. So the big game here is that you can recur your Cave Troll. So the key point there, I think, is if you've got nothing to do with your Twilight and you can't muster up a swarm, you pay 12, you get your Cave Troll down. So again, that'd have to be later on to have enough Twilight to do that, but later on against a bigger Fellowship, you definitely be able to Foul Things for a Cave Troll, again, 15 power damage plus 1 fierce is just going to be an unbeatable fight there and create 4 wounds on your opponent and possibly take some companions off the table. So my guess is that they valued this interaction right here, because otherwise Host of Thousands is another good option. It just precludes you from being able to play the Cave Troll. So that's that was another interesting tech. Like I said, I'm really high on the Sauron orcs with the Tol Brandir, not as high on the Foul Things, but be interesting to test out and see if that is worthwhile to do that. I guess when you're doing your swarm and you're actually getting goblin runners and stuff down, it probably doesn't matter that you're paying 2 for that, but potentially could reduce your effectiveness. So that's the trade-off: reducing your potential effectiveness in a swarm to be able to get back cave trolls. So they obviously came down on the cave troll side of things there. So. Lastly then, just to run you through our site path really quickly, like I said, the key, we've already talked about site 1 pulling a Bilbo, but we've got 3 copies, so it's not as critical. And then site 9 pulling our trackers. The other key sites in here really, I'll just run it through. You can't cancel skirmishes at site 2, probably not as critical unless your opponent really floods. If they really flood the pool, then this means they can't play their Hobbit stealth on site 2, so maybe that's worthwhile. Play a Hobbit to draw a card. Again, that just helps with card draw. We've got those 4 splash Hobbits, so that can help cycle through our deck as well. So that actually seems nice. Mithril Mine, very good for Moria Swarm because this has the cheaper version of Relic's ability here, just to remove 1 to play a shadow weapon from your discard pile. And of course, it's underground, so it lets the troll play for -3. So that's a very key site. Bridge of Khazad-dum, super huge for this deck, but again, that's going to be mandatory because that's the only site 5. Dimrill Dale, This one is also very good, you know, to swarm at because you get a free orc. That can really help you get going. Discard every ally. I'm going to check the list on that. I'm a little surprised, but maybe by Site 7 you're not needing your Bilbo anymore, or you're more worried about people that are playing a ton of allies. That's a little surprising to me, though, that we're playing discard every ally. It's got to be, though, that we think that our opponent's got a bigger ally package than we do. But yeah, I'm going to check that list, make sure that that really was supposed to be in there. Shores of Nen Hithoel. Spot 5 orcs to prevent the Fellowship from moving. Again, you can kind of use your orcs as just a speed bump if you need to. And then Tol Brandir, we talked about that. So guys, yeah, really appreciate all the feedback on the videos. I've been hearing people like the PC format, especially the Fellowship. Also been hearing that this is, you know, Fellowship in general, people just really like because it's a digestible format. You can understand what's going on. It's not so advanced and crazy like some of the other formats. So definitely are going to be trying to make more videos. I think we'll go ahead and do a video like this too of the runner-up, because that was another fun deck, I think, to showcase, and I do just like showing off the championship decks. So yeah, I'm gonna throw down a little thumbnail here for you guys so that we can show this. And here, I'm gonna throw this guy in there because that, I think, is some nice tech that they did. So let's show that off as our shadow side. So here's the little showcase of our key cards. Aragorn and Bilbo for sure, very representative of the Free People's side. And then got our Moria minions there. Just making a nice thumbnail for you guys here. Sorry for the weirdness, but this is the layout I'm gonna go with here. So there you go. Appreciate the nice comments. Appreciate all the views and the positive energy that making these videos is bringing to the community. So really love to see the discourse and hear that people are enjoying this. Thanks, guys. See you again soon.